I'd like to call the meeting of the Palmdale Aerospace Board of Directors to order. Roll call.
Justin Knowles, Dennis Trujillo,
Present.
Ellen McIsaac, Nardi Lopez,
Present.
David Lujan.
Present.
We have one.
Thank you. Mr. Dilcher, could you give us some recognition, please?
Yes. Put your hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public comments for items not on the agenda. Have two. Luisa Escobar.
Can I grab it? Hi everybody. I'm Luisa Escobar. I'm the 5th grade teacher on the elementary side. First of all, I just wanted to say thanks to administrators and the board for last week's professional development on strategies for engagement. I think it's one of the first times a lot of us have gotten like our spark back as teachers. Some teachers even mentioned that they were actually happy to come back next year, and I think that's what we always want out of professional development. I want to thank Ms. Lynch, Mr. Schatz, Miner, Mr. Brophy, Ms. Boone for their presentations, because I felt like I actually took stuff with me, and I'm like, I'm ready. You guys gave me books, and I wasn't like, I'm gonna go hide those on my bookcase. I literally started at opening up that night. So I really want to thank you for that, and I hope that we can have more of those professional developments for our other teachers, especially our new teachers. Even first, second-year teachers could really benefit from it. Even like almost 10-year teachers can benefit from these types of PDs. Also, a little, if you notice, we all kind of did those dream bedrooms. Wow. I'm not gonna lie, it's summer. Dream classrooms where we all just, what furniture will be like, what things we're gonna actually boost our student engagement, and we'll be so happy if we can improve furniture and other things for these teachers, because I know it's not only going to help us, it's going to help our students, and that's what we really care about. When we all come together and realize that it's literally this is just for them, then it all matters. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Marina Vivas?
Hello.
Hello.
Bueno, soy la mamá de Hailey. Creo que estamos aquí por lo que sucedió con Hailey, ¿verdad?
I am Haley's mother, and I am here for what occurred with Haley.
Bueno, yo sé que lo que ella hizo no es correcto, agredir a la niña por la espalda.
I know that what she did was not correct. I guess in assault or touch someone from behind.
Yeah. Pero ella ya estaba cansada de todos los problemas que estaban pasando aquí con ella en la escuela.
But she was already tired of all the things that were occurring with her here at the school.
Entonces, me imagino que lo que se le ocurrió a ella en su cabeza fue, bueno, es mi momento ahorita. Estoy cansada de que esta niña me esté moleste a cada rato.
And I can imagine, I can assume what she was probably thinking, that she was, tired of what was going on, and this was the moment to act on how she was feeling.
Porque ya se había venido a hablar un montón de veces con el director, con el papá de la niña.
Because she had already come several times to speak to the director and to the girl's father.
El director dijo en varias ocasiones, les vamos a dar como una hoja para que ellas firmen para que no se acercaran ni una ni la otra.
She had been told by the director that they were going to give them a form to fill out, like an agreement that they were not going to engage with each other.
Y la subdirectora de él también lo mencionó, me dijo se las voy a dar y nunca lo hizo,
And then
ni él ni ella.
the sub-director also indicated the same, but it never occurred.
Entonces cuando la otra niña tenía la ocasión de estar molestando a Hailey o de decirle cosas así y corría con la maestra a esconderse al salón y después venía a decir al director que Hailey le había dicho esto.
And when things used to happen, the other little girl used to do things, and then she would run behind the teacher, and then they would say what happened.
La niña es, como a mi manera de yo mirarlo y a lo que Hailey decía, yo lo miro nomás como la niña le gustaba estar molestando a Hailey y
And the way
esconder
that
la mano allá para hacerse la víctima de que ella no hacía nada cuando
and
le
the way that I
molestaba.
see it is that the other little girl used to instigate and like egg her on, and then she would act like nothing happened.
You're okay giving her another minute?
Yes, as we're translating here.
Yeah.
Y luego, antes de que sucediera lo que pasó ahorita con Hailey, al principio una niña golpeó a Hailey
And
por la
before
espalda.
this occurred, there was another girl that had hit Haley from
Cuando
behind.
yo miré el video, las personas que estaban, las coaches que estaban para ayudar a Hailey a separarla, no podían separar cuando
And when
agarró,
I
esa
saw
otra
the
niña agarró a
video, I
Hailey.
saw the coaches that were trying to separate them, they couldn't do so.
Y el director no hizo nada esa vez.
And the
Cuando me la
director didn't
agarraron
do
por la
anything,
espalda y me la
and they
soltó
hit her from
en
the
el
back,
suelo, la otra
knocked
niña
her
la
on the
agarró en la
floor,
mochila, pum, para
and
abajo al
pulled her
suelo.
by the backpack and
Él no hizo nada.
and nothing was done.
Yo vine y le dije, ¿saben
And
qué
I
me
came and
dijo
I
él?
told them,
Eso me quedó clarito a mí cuando me dijo de qué grado era la niña, la otra.
and
Era,
the director asked
Hailey estaba en el 5, la otra niña era del
what
6.
grade was the
Oh,
other little girl.
solo es un año mayor.
And I was told, you know, I
Eso
said
fue lo que
Haley's
él
in fifth, the other
dijo.
girl's in sixth.
En vez de darme
She said, well, they're
una,
only in
una palabra
grade
más sensata de él, de decirme, oh, esto, le dije, ¿por qué en ese momento yo le dije a él, ¿por qué no la corres? Dijo, no puedo
And at that
correrla.
moment I said, you know, I thought I would get a more sensitive answer, and what I got was that, and I asked why wouldn't they
Me dijo, no, no
get
la
rid of
puedo
her,
correr
and
a
they
la
said, we
primera.
can't do that.
Dennis, are you guys okay with the one more minute?
Yeah, usually it's double the time
Yeah,
because of the
double.
translation.
Yeah.
That's usually double, so give her 2
Yes.
more.
Me dijo él, no la puedo correr a la primera, ni a la segunda, ni a la tercera.
They told me they couldn't
Tenemos que hacer
expel
juntas,
or
como lo
get
que
rid
está
of them
pasando
in the
ahorita con
first try,
Hailey.
the second, or,
Y la niña golpeó a más personas,
and the little girl did hurt other.
a otras personas, porque nosotros tenemos videos donde le golpeó a otra niña y a otra
And I
niña
have
y él no
video
hizo,
where the
no
little
hizo
girl
nada. Ahora
hurt-
con
I
el
mean,
caso de
hit somebody
Hailey,
else.
él sí viene y quiso poner su mandatoría que él tiene con ella a expulsar a Hailey de un solo por lo que Hailey hizo. Yo sé que no es correcto, pero así como él miró que lo que hizo Hailey no era correcto ese día, así me haya visto cuando le pegó la niña esa a Hailey, lo haya mirado de la misma manera, no solo tiene que mirar para un lado del mismo lado y mirar al otro, no, tiene que mirar correctamente a los dos puntos. Cuando pasó lo de Hailey al principio,
Déjeme traducir lo que ha dicho. She says that, you know, the same circumstances happened against her daughter, and it wasn't handled in the same way that it's being handled now, that it should be. You can't just look to one side, you have to look to both, and her daughter is being expelled, I think she's saying, and when the incident happened against her daughter, it wasn't handled in the same way.
entonces ese es mi punto de vista de que él es el que manda aquí en la escuela, entonces él tendría que ser correcto para todos.
This is my point of view. I feel like if he has this directive in the school, then it should be the same for everyone.
Y cuando dice voy a hacer un contrato para una niña y para la otra,
He says that I'm going to do a
hacerlo en el
contract
momento que corresponde,
them
que los niños le firmen hasta
to do it
que
at that moment so it could be signed.
firmados hasta enfrente. Si puede llamarme a mí, que lo firme delante Hailey conmigo, está bien, correcto, yo vengo a la escuela y traigo a la niña para que lo firme. Pero
Pero
él no lo hizo. Es lo que haya dicho él para que las niñas estuvieran alejadas. Hailey se alejaba, pero la otra niña venía y buscaba a Hailey siempre.
Says if it would have been done that
Pienso
way, Haley would have removed herself, and she was doing that, but the other little girl was not.
Pienso que es todo lo que tengo que decir.
It's all that I have to say.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Public comments concerning agendized items? None? Reports? Oh,
It's part of my report too.
Okay.
I have two things.
reports, Superintendent Lynch?
Okay, I'd like to ask Mr. Langford to come forward because he's retiring. And so we want to honor his time here at the Academy, and I know that Dr. Sullivan wants to say something on your behalf. But we want to give you the certificate of recognition for your time at the Academy. And this is a grateful recognition of your retirement. And we have this plant for you. But you don't have to carry it, you don't have to hold it all. Just like it. And I think you probably work, and I know that we're going to keep talking to you about the intervention stuff. And yeah, we're going to miss you.
Well, Tim, I want to say thank you for all your leadership and support. Many of you may be aware that Tim came in at a very time in administration where it was changing a lot, and so he kind of came in and brought some stability to 106. And you know, Tim is a very cool, savvy kind of guy, and we need that, especially in 106 when times can be very hectic and go 0 to 100. And Tim always seemed to have the right thing to say, and was never at a loss of words. And I was very honored to work under you as an AP and learn from you, and apply a lot of what I saw from you as a principal, and apply that to as a high school principal. So I just want to say thank you for all your time and support.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
One thing I love about you is how you show kids.
Yes, yes. Well, thank you, everyone. I do appreciate, I really enjoyed my time here. And so I want to say thank you to the board. Thank you to all of our families. We do have some really amazing students here who will go out and really contribute to the community here first and foremost, because I know the school was established really to be a pipeline to our aerospace industry, but these kids will do that and actually much, much more. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to all of the teachers and the staff, because you know what, it is a partnership. And you know, everything that you do, and you know, the engagement, professional development, and that I know there's more to come. Those all make a difference in terms of as we're continuing to fine tune what we do for kids. So I am looking forward to continuing to talk, and there might be some things that we can do in the future, but I'm looking forward to retirement. All right, thank you.
And the other part of my report is this. I prepared a presentation on the Student Engagement Summit. And so I just want to give the board a quick overview of what we did for the week. So we had a collective purpose of discovering and implementing several actionable practices that measurably improve the experience of school for students so that they could subsequently be spread to everyone who can benefit at the Academy as quickly as possible. So it's a wedge and spread approach with the people who came to the summit, then kind of spreading at their school sites by trying out the things that we did over the week. There were 3 cohorts, and each cohort went through all 3 of these cycles. So Mr. Schatz had consultant Jennifer Boone and Patrick Brophy, who helped deep dive into standards and STEAM activities. Our consultant from Solution Tree, Jen Miner, worked with the staff on collaborative structures and skills students need to elevate engagement and learning. And then they worked with me on student voice, student engagement, and classroom spaces. They were given these 2 books. The New Classroom Instruction That Works, and then From the Campfire to the Holodeck. The one on the left is about teaching strategies, and the one on the right is about classroom spaces and how that plays into engagement. And this is our survey feedback. We were very proud of our survey feedback because, like Ms. Escobar said, the teachers really seemed to like the training. We got 100% that it was relevant and meaningful to them in their roles, and then you can read some of the comments that they made on the surveys, which are very nice. What is one key insight or strategy they learned? So they mentioned classroom space is essential. They want to let their students' voices be heard. Assigning value and meaning to their work is important for engagement, and that they want to meet up with grade levels above and below so that they can align the standards better. And then these are some more quotes about what are your next steps for increasing student engagement. Of course, there's many more than these. We had 42 teachers involved, but we just pulled out some of them. They want time, they're planning to have time for students to interact with their goals. They learned a lot about having students set goals and then checking in along the way to see how they're doing. They had refining their classroom setup and rotating station-based instruction, so they had the flexible classroom zones. And in providing more student interaction, and then giving them choice opportunities and a different classroom layout. So a lot of them were really energized to look at their classroom layout and change things. And these are some pictures from the week. We had t-shirts that Ms. Kumar and Mr. Hernandez created together. Design, Create, Explore, that's our theme going into next year. And bringing us back to the roots. You can see in this picture here, they're looking at what you see here, the classroom spaces that they created. So one of the tasks in my session was to learn about the different classroom spaces that increase student engagement, and then they had to create their ideal classroom. And then we selected 3 winners at elementary, 3 at middle school, and 4 at the high school, because the high school's bigger. And then we had Ms. Salinas, the assistant principal at the high school, who created this for our hangar, which is our shared space with students, and this was phenomenal too. So we had to put it out for display. She did a great job. Oh, and I wanted to show this video. Can you click on that video? Thanks. This is just all the different classrooms from all the teachers. Is there sound? There's sound. Or it doesn't matter. There's no sound actually. Never mind. It's just people talking in the background. But you can see all the different spaces they created. And then the classrooms that were selected were 2 from each grade, or each school site were selected by their peers. So it was by an anonymous ballot. And then the administrators picked the last one for each school site. And they had different criteria they had to follow to be able to be selected.
Rocking chairs.
Yeah, rocking chairs and a dinosaur. One teacher who shall not be named tried to bribe me for votes with a Hello Kitty tattoo. It didn't work. I know who that is.
I wrote off anyways, so.
And then the hanger. Okay, thank you. And then lastly, I will be bringing to the board possible approval of these classrooms, because we would like to give the teachers who won the spaces that they created so that they can try them out and pilot the new furniture and see if they can increase student engagement and then kind of have that spread. We're about due, I think, Mr. Dilger for some furniture upgrades. And then we plan as administrators to support them throughout the year. So part of the agreement coming to the summit is that they commit to doing all the things that they've learned, and that we commit to supporting them in doing so. Because we know there's going to be some ups and downs, and they're taking a lot of risks, and so we're going to be supporting them with doing that. And we're hoping that they share out their best practice with their peers at staff meetings and professional development events. In fact, I got 3 teachers, I tapped them on the shoulder, and are you one of them? Oh yeah, 4. To present at our professional development day in August, so that's great. And so they'll be doing that for their academy-wide PD events. That's it. Did I do this? That's my report.
Director of Student Services, Mr. Riley.
It's the time of year where we go through reports and lots of reports. I'd like to thank Maddie Pizzo. We have 17 different areas that are very large that we have to look at when it comes to end of year. Right this second, as of this afternoon, she's to 15. We only have 2 left. The biggest one, incidences, was taken care of today. So we are on track to be right where the CDE wants us to be. So we should be ready to transition in, July 11th when it's due and they ask for us to start moving on to creating new data.
Thank you. Director of Educational Services, Mr. Schatz.
Good evening. Wednesday, August 6th is going to be our annual new teacher orientation for all the new teachers. We'll have that day lined up for them. And then the following 2 days, Thursday and Friday, August 7th and 8th, will be our annual summer institute for all staff to come back, welcome them all back, and get them started with their first 2 days of PD for the year. And we'll start school the next Monday.
Thank you. Director of Special Education, Ms. Fawcett.
I've just put in the board all of our contracts for the upcoming school year, so just let me know if you have any questions about those. I'm sure you haven't read all of them, and I think I did answer a couple of questions already, but let me know if you have any more of those so that we can have those ready for our support services for our special ed students.
Director of Facilities, Maintenance and Operations, Mr. Dilger.
Both in the technology team and the facilities team is working to recover the campus from a year of academics, getting ready for students to arrive back here in August. Our multi-million-dollar construction project on our roof is well underway, as you've seen through driving through our parking lot. It's an active construction zone in our H building. Subsequently, our audio-visual upgrade projects in both gyms is scheduled to start in a week's time frame. All projects are on track to be completed and finished prior to the professional development days of our instructors as they come back. Thank you for the support, and please be on the lookout for more updates and projects.
Thank you. Chief Business Official, Ms. Sarasua.
I have a presentation tonight on the budget, and that's pretty much what we've been working on, so I will leave it to them for more comments.
Thank you. Employee organizations for PATA. For PACO.
You just have a minute there?
Yeah.
Since normally our comments at the end, but most of you are gone, I just wanted to say that I've been to a lot of professional developments over my years, and I attended the last half of Friday last week in professional development, and I talked to a lot of the teachers. I've never been to one where the teachers were so excited about a class that they attended, so thank you guys for doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Moving on to the consent agenda. So before us is the consent agenda. Do we have any questions on any of the items on the consent agenda?
I do, I don't wanna, there's a lot here. There's a lot of contracts, but I tried to go through all of them. I think is there a cost to this? Like, what is the fiscal impact and all that? Because it doesn't outline any of that. So, are they on an as-needed basis, or I don't think they had a staff report to them. So, it's just, unless I missed it, but I printed it.
You can pull the items when we talk about it.
There's
So
a lot.
that's- So which ones are you okay with? 1 through what?
I think it's all of the ones, there's a lot here.
You okay 1 through 14?
13, no, carpet renewal. I think they have to do more with these master contracts, small talk therapy.
What number do you want to go
Right.
So 1 through 14. So can I
You
get a,
could say, yeah,
can I get a motion to approve items 1 through 13 as is? And we're
Motion.
pulling, and we're gonna be pulling 14.
Well, you can say, can I have a motion to pull those two and then talk about it and put it back in revolving.
So can I get a motion to take out item 14, 15, 16 through 22?
motions to pull items, you said 13 through 22,
14
14
to
to 22.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, so let's start with number 14. Recommendation to approve E-rate compliance service renewal.
Good morning.
No, go ahead.
All right, yeah, between you and Michael and me. The E-rate is a program that offers us substantial benefits on cost recuperation for our technological equipment. This organization helps us finalize reports, recoup the cost, work with the government entities to ensure that we're properly receiving the maximum benefit for this E-rate program. It's a very specialized skill set that this organization has. This is our 4th year renewal of this organization. That's my 30,000 foot level. Do you have anything else you'd like to add to that?
I'm saying it's standard for school districts or charter schools to work with an E-rate company because there's so many regulations because it's federal funding that supports 50% to 80% of all your internet or hardware. And it's an annual contract.
This is for recycling of that, or?
No, E-rate is a program from the federal government that was started about 15,
20 years ago, I don't know. And what it does is it subsidizes all of your technology.
Okay.
So because it's a huge expense for school districts to have internet, or maybe they're upgrading like some of the stuff that we've been doing here. So you have to apply every year for E-rate, and then the government approves you, and they subsidize up to 50, 60, 70% of your internet or technology expenses.
Okay, but we pay for this, correct?
It's a consultant who prepares all the paperwork and everything for us because it's all of that regulatory federal paperwork.
Okay, and it's for, assuming it says it's, the base contract amount is $4,000 and then there's a $10,000 not to exceed amount?
Correct, on there. That's if we have any exercise, any specialty cases, or work with them to bring them in for any more professional advising on that. We've never exercised the extra $10,000 on that, and we would bring that to the board if we did need one to exercise utilizing that $10,000 reserve.
Okay, thank you.
All right, number 15, approval of the Braille abilities renewal.
And on this, my main question on some of these are, is it on an as-needed basis, is what I'm understanding this is? But it's open, available to all the students across all grades, correct?
Well, for special education.
For special ed,
These
but
are
it is,
specialized.
but it covers both campuses.
It does.
Okay.
The whole entire TPAA, TPA
Okay.
through 12.
Approve the EdLogic group core renewal.
Yes, we use EdLogical for occupational therapy as well as for psychological services. We need extra, like psychologists to run reports, write, do assessments.
This is in addition to we approved an item, I think several meetings ago, where provide, I think it was mental health services on call, is that,
That is
do you
not part of
remember
this.
that, Gina?
From before?
Yeah, that we approved something,
It's
this isn't
different.
a,
It's
different.
but it's in addition to that, right? It's another service in addition
Yes.
to that.
Yeah, specialized
We do not have an occupational therapist that's hired through TPAA, and that's a specialized service, and so we use EdLogical for that service. We've also used it for, like I said, psychologist services.
So recommend to approve partners in SPED renewal.
Partners in SPED is also under contract for psychology services. And we're not using, right now, we just have open a contract with them. We have not used them, currently we're not using them right now.
Okay, so this is a new contract?
No, it's not new, we're renewing it, but right now we're not using them as a provider for anything currently.
So they're on call in case we do need them?
We're a small school, so it's hard to like hire all of the specialized
Yeah.
things for special education.
Small says you just gotta stay standing, sorry. Recommend to approve the small talk therapy ink renewal.
Is that, and same questions on this one, it's just the cost and what it's for.
Well, small talk therapy is for, actually, Mr. Riley, could you help me on that one, because we're not using them right now. Do you remember?
We use them when it comes to audiological
Right,
service.
well,
So,
we're using
and-
them as well as Soliant, but right now we're not using them for like assistive technology.
Mhm.
We did end our contract with Soliant, so I did not bring to the board a new Soliant contract. So we're using small talk therapy. I know that, but I don't, right, currently this year, we're not using them
Yeah, I don't believe we had a student that needed audiological service,
right now.
and we used assistive technology through Soliant, but that will probably be transitioned, I'm assuming, through Small Talk moving forward.
So sometimes, and you know, I'll know that I'm new to the director position, but what I've noticed in the past as a special ed, and as what Mr. Riley has mentored me, is that we want to keep open contracts for, so there isn't a delay in services with some, and then like I said, we ended our contract with Soliant, and so we're keeping small talk open for if we need to do assistive technology technology or other type of services to that nature.
Do any of these overlap in their services?
Some of them do, but we're typically using we're not using two different companies to do occupational therapy. We're not using two different companies right now to do psych services, but we do keep them open because sometimes they'll have other types of services that we do not provide. Like Braille abilities, we have a student that's visually has some impairments, and so they actually provide a service and they help us with making sure that we have all the right textbooks and that we have all the proper paper and all the proper technology to make sure that we're meeting the guidelines through the IEP process. So we're actually using them for that. We're not, they're very specialized. Others will offer certain services that we want to use, but we're not using them for all of those things that they offer.
Okay, and do we have to, so I'm understanding they're on call, so we pay as needed?
Yes.
Or- Okay.
All right, I'll recommend to approve the Hop Skip Drive Inc. renewal.
Skip Drive was used for transportation. So currently, right now, we do not have any students that are using Hop Skip Drive for transportation services. So we do have an open contract with them for $30,000. We had 2 students that did utilize the service for several months, and then when we renewed the IEP, then it was no longer found needed. So right now, we're not using Hop Skip Drive, but I do know that so the counselors have been utilizing their services for some mental health. So we're going to keep that open, and also the contract open for any new incoming students that we may see that it is needed for them for that service. But right now, I currently in special education do not have anybody officially needing transportation through their IEP.
And we also need to hold on to it in the event of our homeless students. So McKinney-Vento would require us to transport students to here from one of the schools of origin. And so I know counseling has used that this last year as well. So we have to have an open contract to take care of transportation in those specific needs.
But that contract is also being utilized through what Mr. Riley mentioned. We don't have 2 separate contracts. So the contract that Special Ed opened is the contract that you see, and it's being used through that other program as well.
I'll recommend to approve the CPR First Aid Advert Training renewal. Thank you, Ms. Fawcett.
There was a memo for that, and that is not to exceed $25,000. So that's how we get CPR training to our staff. It's done multiple times per year.
All right, recommend to approve Daybreak Health General Health Education MH Program renewal.
And there was a memo for that one as well,
Yeah.
and that's for $70,000. And so that program allows our students to, who need tier 2 support when it comes to seeing a therapist. It's done through Zoom. They have a 6-week program. We can put up to 18 students per in that, so we've used it throughout the course of this school year. We have backed down a little bit from what the contract was previously, but it's a service that we have utilized and used all the years that I have been here.
So the board, we've not been submitting memos, it's been that way for several months now because it seemed the board was okay with that. Do we want to have them write memos again?
For me, I think I would ask less questions because I would understand and maybe it'll answer. We're approving a lot of contracts here, and so, I mean, I think it's helpful in that it provides, but I mean, I know I'm not the only one on the board and it should be a consensus, but I think it helps in understanding the fiscal impact and the benefit to the kids. Like I am glad to hear all these are in place, right? Because I think it provides a great opportunity for students. I also, is there a way that we inform parents that these are available as well? Sometimes, you know, as parents, we may not know, you know, that we can ask those questions, right? Is this provided for our child if they see certain things? And so do we do that, or, yes?
To speak to that, my contracts, we do, as that's part of an IEP team process. We have those open, like I said, so there would be no delay in service. So we hold a meeting, it's an IEP meeting, and the team decides that one of these services that we don't directly provide here, or one that we do directly provide, like we do have in-house speech pathologists and other services that we can provide, then we actually let them know that we have outside agencies that will provide that service, and then they sign an assessment plan, and then we go to assessment, and then there isn't a delay. These are actually not new contracts, these are all renewal of contracts. So I haven't brought any new contracts, even though I know that a lot of us are fairly new, the positions over in the board and my position as well, but they are not new, and that we do through the special ed process, we do let parents know that yes, if there is a need for a student, that we do provide that service. Any other questions?
No, I don't have any, I don't know what done. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as is?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Consent agenda passes. Thank you. Items, discussion items, TPAA school annual placement and A through G division report.
Yeah.
No, here's the quick version.
Is that shared with the check?
Sure, done. One sec. I'm gonna send it to you.
To the tech email, please.
One second.
Is this one by chance?
Yeah, that's it. I sent it to you, by the way. But yeah, that's it.
Give me one second. Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, so we're looking at the A through G completion rate, specifically in a couple areas. This report provides a review of the mass placement and looking at equity. So we're looking specifically at race, Hispanic versus non-Hispanic. And then we're looking at the A through G completion rates for mathematics, as well as the completion rates for Spanish. I'll come back to the findings in just a second, but I want to jump right into our breakdown. So this is our current list of students that are taken for next year. We're looking at placing the majority of them in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, then we have several other courses throughout geometry, AP Cal, Calc BC, Intro to Stats, etc. So you kind of see an overview of what the math placement looks like here at TPAA, right? And thank you to Ms. Piso for helping me with this as well as my AP, Ms. Salinas. We're looking at the students that are either on track or have met the requirements for A through G, which means that they got a C or better in the math course. So if you're a ninth grader, and this was looking at race, so if you're Hispanic or non-Hispanic, we had a total of 197 students in ninth grade, for example, and that's kind of unit going across. And so we did it by grade level, and we had about 37 that were not on track, so about 18.8% of those students were not on track because they got a D in their ninth grade. And most of our ninth graders here take Algebra 1. And then compared that to non-Hispanic students that we had at, that we had 38, 10 of those students were not on track. And so if you account for that, yeah, that comes out to about 26%. And so if you look at the Hispanic not on track versus Hispanic that are Hispanic that are not on track versus white that are not on track, you can see that it goes back and forth, that there's not one. In ninth grade, looking at the pointer, can I click on this? Okay. In ninth grade, you see that the non-Hispanic is a higher percentage that are not on track, but then over here in 11th grade, you have a lower percent. So there's not a statistical difference.
Can I,
But
can we ask questions on or hold till the
Okay,
end?
it's a presentation.
Why looking at Hispanic versus non-Hispanic?
So in Power School, that's how the race is coded. It's either a 1 or a 0. And so when we ran the reports, we were able to look at Hispanic versus non-Hispanic.
Does the percentage of how many Hispanics and non-Hispanics are in the school impact those numbers? Like if you have
Yeah, so that was
majority
accounted
of
for.
Hispanics in
Yeah,
the
so
school.
that was accounted for.
Okay.
So yeah, I took that into account. It wasn't like there was a total of, yeah, so we accounted for based on our current demographic rate. So that was factored in when we accounted for the percent of Hispanics. It wasn't like 10 non-Hispanic out of the total. It was out of the total that were statistically how our demographics break down for whites in our school.
Do you know whether it changed between 10th and 11th grade?
No, and that's something that we could go and populate back and forth about exactly why. I mean, it does get sequentially more difficult, but in terms of race, we don't see a difference. Track or not on track. We also were looking at our DF. We also are going to be looking at our DF rate and kind of bringing that back to our teachers so that we can look at why these students are not on track and meeting the A through G requirements, and also having a discussion with our counselors to see what we can do to make sure those students that are not on track are getting back there to having a higher A through G completion rate. That's what we want.
And these are based on, this doesn't include like ESL,
This was all ours.
it's all
Yeah,
students.
ESL, students with
Language
IEP,
barrier or anything like
language
that. It's
barrier,
not.
yeah, and so that does impact this as well. So for example, students with an IEP, we have several students that are on a California grad plan. The number of years that they need to complete math is different. And so, for example, if they're a 10th grader and they got a D in their course, well, they're done with math, and so they're able to graduate. Even if they had a D in math in 10th grade, they're finishing up without being on track for graduation, A through G completion rate. So all of those things kind of factor into the overall completion rate for A through G.
This is for numbers for this school year alone?
Yes. Yeah, so these are current students that just finished their 9th grade year, 10th grade year, and are graduating senior class.
So the graduating senior class, there was 210?
210 plus the 40, so 250.
And out of those that graduated, how many are within that?
So overall, we're at about a 54% A through G completion rate, which is slightly down from previous years.
That's half.
Yeah. And that is something that we are closely monitoring and having conversations with our counselors to see how we can, better that number.
Yeah.
Any other questions before I move on? And so this is what we were talking about here, the about 54% completion rate for our graduating class. Again, as you go from 9th to 10th, right, any D in that course in algebra and geometry and algebra 2, it makes you ineligible or not on track for completion. And so we want to make sure that we get these, we are consistent. We start off strong at 80%, 87%, but by the time these kids hit 11th and then finally to 12th grade, it drops. It means they got a D or fail somewhere along that line, and they didn't make it up for one reason or another.
Dr. Sullivan, is there anything we could do to curb that? Like, could we set a goal for next year for 11th and
100%, yeah, and that's exactly, when I talked about having this conversation with the counselors, that's exactly what we're going to be doing, is looking at each counselor's alpha and having them set their goal about, are your kids on track for A through G, and what are you going to be doing in order to make sure your kids are supported with that? All right, whether it's enrolling in summer school, making sure that they have the credit recovery, making sure that the kids, if there's a D on the transcript, that they're having that conversation with the kid so that they are A through G by the time that they walk out of here. And they do have options to apply to a 4-year college.
There's a slide that talks about it.
Oh,
It's just like,
What class eliminates most of the ones between 10th and 11th?
Yeah, that's
Is
what
it
I was
algebra, was it geometry? What-
Yeah, so typically 10th graders are in geometry, and then by 11th grade, that's the Algebra 2 class.
So they're having trouble with geometry?
Yeah, so that's a big one
What it
that we
boils
see.
down to?
Yeah, and then geometry Algebra 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, because in math, it's like you miss something, when you move on to the next,
Right.
you're,
It just compounds
you're
it.
lost,
It
right?
compounds
In
it,
third
right.
grade, you decimals and all that, and you miss that, you struggle throughout the rest of the time as well. So it looks like there's something there in 10th grade
Yeah.
where it's causing an
Geometry.
impact for 11th, and then it's even more in 12th because they've missed something in 11th to catch up.
Yeah. Looking at the Spanish completion rate, we see a much higher across the board. Spanish, obviously graduation requirements are a little bit different. In order to graduate, you only need a minimum of 2 years to graduate. It's recommended that they do a third year as well, but the same requirements that they have to have a C or better in those courses in order to meet A through G completion rates. And you see a big difference compared to the math A through G completion rate. Overall, you see 9th grade are on track, about 91%, which means they, in their Spanish 1 class, they get from a C or better in there. And then some of them struggle a little bit when they come to Spanish 2, dropping it a little bit in 11th grade. So some students don't take it in 9th grade, so they do electives, they do AVID, they do yearbook, and so they end up taking the elective in 10th grade, and then they do a second year in 11th grade. Or this could be their Spanish 3 year where they struggle a little bit, and so you see a little bit of a dip, and then they get the numbers back up to about an 86% completion rate.
Understandable, Hispanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that we talked about was next steps and what are we going to be doing. As I mentioned already, is having these sit-down conversations with our counselors to do that exactly. Set a goal at the beginning of the year and having each counselor look at their alpha and their students and seeing which ones that they have that conversation with about not just making up the class that they need for credits for graduation, but making up that D in order to get through to be A through G completion by the time that they get to their senior year. And we're not just playing a rapid catch-up game for credits to graduate, but we're playing a completion rate for A through G, and that's what we want. So we talked about which area. I think Mr. Trujillo asked about which specific class. We're looking at that Algebra 2, Algebra 1 class, making sure that there are interventions in place and what that looks like in order to make sure we don't have that dip from that 10th grade year. Continue doing a strong placement program, so we do have a pretty good strong, like I said, completion rate in the Spanish, but I think we can definitely do better. So we use the Spanish placement program that we've been doing the last few years now. So continue to making sure that if a student is a native speaker, he's getting placed in the right class, and he's not getting placed in Spanish 1 at the beginning. So the teacher can teach that course to the kids at the level that they need it at. And then just making sure that we're increasing awareness. So we do a lot of like parent workshops, GLAC meetings, coffee with the principals, to make sure parents are aware of why it's so important to be A through G and to have that option for students when they get to their senior year. But making sure that we're doing that, even at the beginning when we do our orientation at the beginning of each year, parents are aware that this is important. This is why we're really strongly supporting students to get to a C or better in each of their classes, starting at that 9th grade year. That was it for my presentation. Anything else? Any questions?
Starting at the 9th grade year, are we looking at, some kids are here from TK all the way up to 12th grade, so do we look at their middle school, where they're at, that they're being placed where they need to be, and not just because they've completed, like they have a D and they passed.
Right.
They still haven't learned the material, right? And they're being placed in a 9th grade class at a certain level. They're still lacking that knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So are we looking at that? And grades are grades, right? At the end of the day, when you get a degree, they're not looking so much at your grades. Yeah, some people look at transcripts there, but in reality, what matters is that they're learning the material,
Agreed.
right?
Agreed.
And so, just, are we looking at that?
I think we're starting to. I think Mr. Schatz put in the math policy to allow for that wiggle room and differentiating for those students that are advanced. So now that when you're in 8th grade, you can go into an advanced math, honors, algebra 1 class, the fast track. And so by the time you get into 9th grade, you're doing geometry where the rest of your peers are doing algebra 1, and your teacher is able to teach you at that pace. But if you're already advanced, then you go into the advanced geometry. And this sets you up in a trajectory so that when you get out of here, you're taking calculus AB, calculus BC, and the higher level, college level math.
What about the ones that are not at that level?
And so that's when we place them in those classes that need that additional support. So students that, for example, that have an IEP, we have co-taught classes where they're in there with a gen ed teacher and a sped teacher, as well as the instructional aid, so that they have more one-on-one support. Kids that are in like the midline, midstream, they have those teachers that can focus specifically at their level, differentiating those instructions for those students, because you do have a mix of students that might have an IEP but don't qualify for co-taught classes, or students that are EL and might have a little bit of a language barrier. So those teachers can differentiate that instruction and target those kids with their needs.
Do we have tutoring? Or anything in place for that?
So I know that middle school had kind of put something in place already last year and piloted some intervention that was working. And so I don't know if Mr. Lakewood wanted to share a little bit about what that looked like at the middle school level.
So this year we looked at all of the students who actually who needed additional support. So we pulled all the students who had D's and F's. And so what we did, we started end of the semester with a math lab to really provide them more individual, more small group support. And actually over the summer school, it's math intervention. So we have about 28th graders that are participating in that. We're looking at some of their foundational skills to get them ready for algebra. So that is one of the things that we put in place this year.
And we're hoping to expand that to the high school so that early on we can start looking at how to support them in their math classes and making sure that by the time that they get to like their CAS state test at the end of the year, they have the skills and the intervention that from early on.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
So action items, is this? Action items, recommend approve and adopt the 2025-2026 Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP, and budget overview for parents, supplement and annual update to the 2024-2025 LCAP and local.
A lot of words on there. Good evening again. It's time for our annual end of the year LCAP reflection that we're going to go across. And I have a PowerPoint here for you. I've also uploaded the LCAP into your gamut for you to see. And what you're going to see in there is that this was our 3-year LCAP plan that you guys approved last school year. We just finished year 1 of that LCAP. And what you're going to see, if you look at it, is the update to our actions and any reflections, progress, and any progress that we made along with those actions and the metrics to see that the data that you have. What you're not going to see is a whole lot of substantial changes to the actions or to the goals because it's year 1. As we get going a little bit farther at the end of the year 3, we'll look into that more. But what you are going to see is the current data that we have added to the metrics. And because this LCAP and the budget need to be approved at the same time, I'm going to go over the LCAP part, and then Roseanne's going to speak about the budget piece when I get finished. So here's our identified needs that we have been working on this year. We're going to continue working on, continue towards the targeted intervention for our K-8 students. We're also going to continue with our high school for the college and career counseling to increase the enrollment in our A through G classes that Dr. Sullivan just went over with you and increase the pass rate. Continue to provide services to support social, emotional, and the behavioral needs of our students, and continue to address the chronic absentee rate and also the teacher absentee rate, because their attendance rate, we spend an awful lot of money on teachers when they're out on substitute teachers. And increase the student engagement, which is Ms. Lynch went over that 4-day summit that we just did. It was very successful, and it's our focus that we do every month when we do our monthly walkthroughs with each principal at the schools, and to continue to provide our CTE pathways for our students. So the partners that we work with all year long are VLAC, our parents, teachers, admin, classified staff, students, school site council, and how we do that is each semester we send out a survey to all of our parents, students, and staff, students in 3rd grade and above, and 5th grade and above for the youth truth. And our educational partner means we get feedback from them too. Here's our input that we've had again from our educational partners. Continue the link crew and the web crew, our ES instructional assistants, and ripple effects. Keep our elementary coach, ES for elementary coach, hire a middle school, which we have. We'll start on July 1st, and it is currently flown right now for a high school instructional coach to help out at the high school. Continue with admin, maintain our counselors, increase social emotional supports, access to robotics and equipment for safety. Continue to fund equipment and maintain our clean facility. It is a beautiful campus. Increase our tutoring clubs and student activities. Continue opportunities for field trips, and increase engagement rigor and improving chronic absenteeism. Our local indicators, which you'll find by the CDE, we have to do priorities 1 and 2 on here. And yes, a majority of our teachers are appropriately credentialed, the academy is safe and clean, and all students have standards aligned with materials. That is part of the Williams Act, and at the end of the year we'll go over that Williams Act again, making sure that all of our students have the books that they need. Priority 2, make progress in all core content areas. If you look at just the CAP scores, you're not going to see that, and you're not going to believe that. But we don't put all those eggs in one basket. We use all kinds of data throughout the year to make sure that we can get our students the correct help and support that they need so that they can be successful. Implementation phase that we started last year with our CTE. We offered 2 courses this last school year, Information and Communication Technologies and Engineering and Architecture. Next year, I'm very proud to say that we're going to be offering 2 more courses in our CTE pathway, which are going to be Intro to Data Science and Machine Learning, which is going to be a back-end STEM qualified course. And then the other 3 priorities that we have to do. Priority 3, there are many ways for parents to be involved, and we offer many opportunities for collaboration. And priority 6, the majority of our educational partners care about our school, they understand expectations, and they trust the teachers and the staff. And the student engagement is an area of growth, like I said earlier. That is something that we do monthly on our walkthroughs with all 3 admin for all 3 schools. And our priority 7, we want to make sure we have full access to the broad course of studies, which we do. And our VAPA course within and outside of the school day, our Prop 28 plan is going to help with that to make that even better next year.
What
So,
is VAPA?
VAPA, Visual and Performing Arts. So we have 3 goals in our LCAP that we keep working on. The new actions for goal 1, and the first one isn't all the way new, instructional coaches at the elementary that we had this year. We're adding the middle school for next year, and that one's been hired already. And we are flying the high school position for a high school instructional coach. Provide a coaching cycle for supporting ELD, a director of STEAM and robotics. That has been done already. We've hired Patrick Brophy to be our director for the STEAM robotics. Offer more art classes and upgrade facilities. That again is going to be the Prop 28, which is all 3 schools have their plans that they're implementing. And our update technology, Mr. Michael is going to be working on that one. And our credit recovery opportunity, we want to continue that and offer more opportunities for our students. Goal 2, our new actions that we're adding for that is to add a LAT team for our English learners, intervention support for middle and high school, after an after-school homework club. We actually started that last year for our EL students, and we'd like to expand that for more opportunities for our kids. You've already approved the NWA to be our new benchmark for 6th through 12th grade for ELA and for math to replace the STAR 360 for our upper grade secondary schools. And Amira, a couple of months ago, you approved to be our K2 intervention screener. And for goal 3, our new actions is to make our athletic director to hire somebody from in-house and make it a stipend position instead of a salaried position. More dual enrollment courses. That's still my goal. My goal is to get these kids by the time they graduate here that they've already got their AA. But we need more help from ABC to help with that. And our separate student services response. We have already separated some of the student service responsibilities to jump them into ed services and special education. And then the last piece is, I went over that in the mid-year. I went over a whole bunch of data, went over all that stuff and showed you that. These are the new data that we have access to since February when I did this. So our STAR reading which is our academy-wide benchmark for reading. 42% of our students met and exceeded the grade level standards in their spring assessment, 43% in math, and 53% in early literacy. 78% of our students are fully qualified and appropriately assigned. Our A through G completion rate as of May 29th was 52%. Our reclassification rate is 14.2%. Suspension rate is 2.25%. Chronic absentee rate is 22%, and that's made a big jump down in it for that. And our daily attendance rate is 94.29%. So that's it. Any questions for me?
Are these percentages based on the entire 2 campuses, or
It depends which percent you're talking about.
the reflections from 2024?
In here, so the star reading is everybody, all of the 12th grade and the math. The early literacy is only K1, 2.
I have a few questions, Mr. Shaw.
Sure.
When you're looking at NWEA, right?
Yes.
That's a new assessment.
Yes.
And we're looking at stars. Is that a big difference as far as percentages, or like how do they differ, the programs?
So the biggest difference is the NWA has a tremendous amount more questions that are going to be able to be geared towards the secondary school. The Star 360, it's kind of more of the elementary-ish side. And so what we found in the last couple of years is our high school teachers weren't able to take that data and actually use it with their classes, because the Star 360 was having to be a little bit more broad, general, as opposed to the NWA, where the teacher can actually go in after the first benchmark. The teacher can go in and say, hey, I'm teaching geometry. NWA, help me. I need some questions on this in geometry, and it'll spit out some questions that the teacher can use. Yeah.
Then as far as the new implementation of that
I'm sorry,
program,
say that again?
with the new implementation of that program, what kind of support services are we going to offer the teachers to make sure, and the admin staff to make sure that?
So on August 6th is a Wednesday for the new teacher training. The 7th and the 8th in the morning is going to be 3 hours for all of our 6th through 12th grade English teachers. Are going to be trained from the NWEA companies coming out for the trainer of trainers, and they're going to train our teachers in ELA in English how to use that program. And then the math teachers 6th through 12th grade are also going to get an additional 3-hour training. And then at our next September maybe 17th, our next PD day, somewhere between the beginning of the year and that day, our teachers will have all of our students 6 through 12 take that assessment. They're coming out for a second day of training, and they're going to teach our teachers, hey, here's your data, now what are you going to use with it? And so we are going to get part of that, feel that you guys approved for that is included in that.
Then a couple more questions. Credit recovery, when you talk about credit recovery, that's just like summer school, winter session?
Currently, we use that for Edmentum, and so our high school summer school consists of Edmentum, where the teachers, and then we had some teachers working on this last school year and overseeing that. The teachers are assigning the student, you don't have a very good grade in this subject, I'm going to assign you in this Edmentum program, which has been an approved program, and if the student finishes what they need to do then they can raise their grade up and get actual credit for that class.
The other one was, thank you. The other one was accredited teachers. Credential teachers.
Yes.
The percentage, how could we increase that? I think it's at what you said, 78, right? 78%. Are we providing incentives or making them go and get their credentials, or is that all?
No, look at with blood PIPs and STIPs, so they're not considered by the state to be the highly effective teachers until they get their credentials. That means we have people in the program getting their credential.
Okay.
So there's a number of them, which is a good thing.
Okay.
And once they finish that, then they'll be
Fully. All right. Last one is the sports director. Are we looking at one stipend, or is it two directors?
For the athletic director?
The athletic director?
That would just be one person.
Just one person?
Yes.
And they'll have enough support to do that?
That's always the plan.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question on the ABC, on the dual enrollment courses with ABC.
Where are you at on that?
It's number 3, goal 3.
Oh, goal 3? And what was your question? Oh, ABC dual enrollment?
So, based on the information that we just heard from the numbers, so we have in math, right, we have 50, we could say 50% of students that are not doing well in math, right? That's half of, now I'm assuming that's mostly in high school, which would be the ones doing dual enrollment classes at ABC. I just feel like maybe more focus on getting them up to par in math before providing dual enrollment courses, because how do we have them succeed if they're not, you know, at a certain level in their academics that are a foundation to be able to do like dual? I don't know, I just feel like there's a need for a focus on that area for them to be successful. I feel like they graduate, and yes, I have always thought this, even when I was in school myself, we pass and we move on. But is that gonna motivate us to go to college? Or sometimes when we feel we're not succeeding at something, it doesn't motivate us to continue going. And so we become complacent to a job we find somewhere and we don't push ourselves. And I think, you know, part of being in school is becoming a well-rounded individual to be able to succeed on our own afterwards. And because we are in a community where, you know, we have a lot of first-gen students here. There's a lot of households that parents are providing the food on the table and they may not have that education. I come from that, right? My parents did not have a college education or high school, you know, they didn't graduate from high school, though they brought us up to do good things. I feel that it's important, the foundation that I received through school, to motivate me to do more as I got out. So I had that, thank God, that I saw that while I was in high school. So to me, I feel like more focus on getting them, on finding ways to get them to be successful here, so that when they graduate from here, whatever direction they may want to go, they're at that level. Because for me, 50% is, it's alarming.
Ms. Lopez, I agree with you, and the problem with education, I could give a whole dissertation on this, is our state testing. And we're looking as a board at one assessment. The good news is you've approved the NWEA, which gives us multiple assessments throughout the year. So when you get to the summative assessment, which is these are the percentages that he's sharing out about, our state testing is like the culminating event. Now there are kids who don't test well, there are kids who hate that test and so purposely don't do well, there's kids who had a bad day. That's not the be all end all of how students do. So what I know we've talked about as an admin team is giving more reports to the board ongoing on progress, so that you know how the students are doing for real, because this test is one snapshot. And the dual enrollment it's usually students who want to graduate from college earlier, and so they're very motivated to take those courses so that they end up, in fact I have a 16-year-old in my English class that I started on Monday. They do that so that they can get out of college earlier to do things, and so they're typically not the students who are struggling in school, they're the students who really want to get ahead and work together.
I agree with that. I understand the dual.
He's been up there for a minute, so.
I know, but I have questions. The dual enrollment is important, but I have to say that what they learn to get them to that level. I mean, I've been tied to the school since day one that it started. So I have seen some students, and I can say, that did struggle when they left in math classes in college, and some that did very well. I mean, I think the goal is to try and focus on getting them at the highest level through A through G. And yes, provide the dual course in ABC. I'm not against that. I'm just saying that I feel that because those numbers are what they are, regardless if it's a test or if it was a test and they scored at that, if that's a high number, it means they're struggling. We cannot shy away from saying that there are some that are not at the level they need to be. So it's focusing on those to find a path to get that number higher. and get them to feel confident about how they're doing so that they can be more well-rounded and feel comfortable to get out of high school and go in whichever direction they may want
Right,
to
yeah,
go.
two answers to that. One is, in order to get into the dual enrollment class, ABC has requirements too, and they
Yes.
have to meet it. Actually, one of our students signed up for a class, but they didn't accept him because he did not have a GP on that one. And we also do what's called articulation courses, and I'm just waiting for ABC to get back to us because they have to check with their deans. And if that happens with the list, then when we get approved for those, then I would bring them back to the board for board approval. That list of classes that our students can take, our teachers teach that subject here. And if the student gets an A or a B here at our campus with our teacher, then that student gets credit for that class and would not need to take that class at college later. So that's another motivation for them to work hard, pay attention, try the best, and get all the work done too. So there's a couple of things that we're moving forward with that piece to help on that one. But one of the things you're right is helping the other half, the students to catch up too.
Yeah, that's the half that is critical. The ones that are on top of things, and great that they have that opportunity, but the ones that are not are the ones that are very, very, all are important, but that's the main.
Very good. Okay, well, thank you very much.
All right, I get a motion to approve, okay?
Make a motion to recommend the approval of the adoption of the 2025-2026 Local Control Accountability Plan and the budget overview for parents supplements to the annual update to the 2024-2025 LCAP and the local indicators.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Arizona?
All right, so tonight I'm going to present you the adoption budget and the estimated actuals. So to start with, I'm going to look at the California budget process of how it works, so you're aware of how everything rolls out. So as you know, in January, the governor came out with his proposed budget for next year. And then in May, usually mid-May, he came out with what's called the May Revise. And they look at all the state taxes, they look at GDP, they look at the COLA inflation, and he presents his budget. When that budget comes out, we as an institution have to look at various factors of how we present our budget or what we put in our budget. So we get guidance from LACO, we get guidance from school services, and we get guidance for LCFF calculated from FCMAT. Once the legislature has the governor's budget, the legislature meets and they either agree, disagree, or change the budget. And I actually did get notification today from school services that the legislature has reviewed the budget and they have a template of what they are going to approve, and the COLA is in there. So we're happy about that. The legislature has to sign the budget by June 15th. If they don't sign the budget, they don't get paid. But what happens is they will approve the budget. The governor signs it by June 30th, but they can still come back now and make adjustments to the budget, which usually can happen in July or August, and they add trailer bill language. And they can change programming, some expenditures and everything. So the budget is dynamic and it's always changing. So even though the budget I present tonight, the legislature can still change things going forward. And if they make major changes, then we have the 45-day revise that we can bring back to the board. Internally for us, you've seen a little bit of this before, how our whole year works. June, July, we're working on the budget for the adoption. Instead of August and September, that should say June, July, and August. We're working on closing the books, so right now we're working in 2 years. And then we go through the whole year. When we get to census day, that's the number we look at enrollment. That's the year we use every year because it's a static number that we take every district in all of California, and charter school has to do the first Wednesday of October, and then we get into our interims. So now that we get through all the budget, I'm going to go over estimated actuals. Now when I went through the estimated actuals again, since I've been here since December and I went through second interim and now going through estimated actuals, I had more time to really look at stuff and try to figure out what's going on in the books. So there will be changes. So I'm going to look at right now the revenue between second interim presented estimated actuals, and I'm just going to highlight some of the bigger changes. and what the changes are for. So the first one is federal revenue, and it looks like we're reducing our federal revenue by $1 million, but we're really not. We have the cash in the bank. There was, with my predecessors, however, when you do categoricals, they're called categoricals, and you do the accounting, the revenue has to equal the expenses, and so I've spent a lot of time the last month really trying to go through all the accounting and get everything straight. So I've cleaned it up to what the revenue should be, and then closing the year, because we need to spend our supplemental funds and our LCAP, we move a lot of that money out of some of our categorical funding so we can fully utilize those resources. The next one is state revenue. The biggest change in here is the SB 740 facilities grant, and that is the state subsidizes our lease payments that we make for our bonds. So we pay about $5.45 million this year for our bond, and they will subsidize based on formulas and everything else around $3.2 million. Originally, we had it in the budget around 2.2, and then when I got further clarification of how much they're actually going to subsidize us, I was increased that under our state. And then again, it's just the balancing of the revenue and expenses. Under local revenue, it's really the big piece is interest. So our interest has changed over the years because the way we now do our money and our investments with Wells Fargo, they're not investments, are all secured, and the way we earn interest and the way we post it all onto the ledger. So when I'm looking at what's sitting in the account now that we've posted, now that all our bank statements, everything is getting caught up, it looks like we're going to have more interest than we originally projected or I thought at second interim. So then on the expense side, let's see, the biggest change here is there was a huge amount of money in the budget under substitutes, and I think part of it may have been for professional development or stuff in the past. I don't know because I didn't develop the original budget, but looking at actuals where we were, I moved out some of those expenses, so that was that change there. Looking at classified salaries, that is that off-schedule payment that was approved by the board, and that's really what that number is there. When we get down to books and supplies, we had, if you remember, towards the beginning of the year, we had kind of like a spending freeze because nobody was quite sure with the budget, do we have enough money, how is it all working? And as we got into second interim, we had this push, we met with all the departments, we said, these are your budgets, this is your money, spend it, and as you know, we're trying to spend all the money on this year's kids. So we have been going through and spending the money, which has been great, and then just some other categorical expenses. Next, looking at services, the biggest adjustment here is, as I said, as I go through and clean up the books and I'm looking at the balance sheet, which is not the income statement, and you can see down here there's a $965,000 adjustment, and it's from prior year, going back to like 2018, 2019. So we had sitting on our books that we were expecting money to come in or accounts payable. So I did a lot of research. I had the auditors reviewing it to make sure all the entries are correct, and they, for whatever reason, even going back 2018, 19 with Charter Impact, they had receivables in there that we were never going to receive the money. It was incorrect. I understand the premise why they did it. So if you think about it, in prior years, the revenue was overstated. So now we're just pulling down the fund balance to where it should be. So my goal this year, and I still have some more cleanup to do in the summer, so this will probably change when we compare estimated actuals to unaudited actuals. And I'm really trying to go line by line and account by account so we can clean it all up so we can start the year fresh. So we are able to accommodate these adjustments. So that takes us into our net position, which is really what we want to look at, because we want to look at, you know, are we deficit spending? Do we have a surplus? Can we meet our covenants, which I'll go through at the end of the presentation, the covenants and the net position. And so right now, the way I have it set is 2.6 million, but as I said, it may change when I start reconciling more items in the balance sheet or things come up. Want really clean to start the next year. So this is a good position. So the May revise. So these are some things that I'm sure you've probably heard with the May revise, with the governor's May revise, and I'm just going to highlight a few things. And really, it's this bottom one that is most important to us. Proposition 98 is what determines our funding for education. And when the governor made all of his adjustments or changes, because right now, based on the revenues, we are, the state is $12 billion in the hole. And when Governor Newsom did his budget, he really didn't touch education. There are slight minor adjustments, but he really didn't touch it. And these are kind of like all the things that, you know, the federal money, which doesn't affect us that much, which I'll show you later, and what's going on in the May revise. And then when they do the May revise, all the things that they look at the state level that can affect our money from the unemployment rate, the GDP, so on and so forth. And this is really the problem, the big three. So all of the revenue that we get in the state of California that supports all of California are capital gains tax, our state income tax, and our sales tax. And they're called the big three. And capital gains, as you can imagine, is one of the largest pots, and when the market goes down, or people move out of the state. So they are, at this time, projecting $4.8 billion lower than they thought when they started the fiscal year. So that is part of that $12 billion deficit. So we take all this information, and we take all the information that I take from everything else. I look at all the our enrollment. I meet with Ms. Lynch, Mr. Riley. What is our projection? What does everything look like? And we come up with our budget assumptions. So in the top here we have our COLA, and that is set by the state, and those are projected out. That 2.3% is lower. When we presented this at second interim, it was 2.43%. So that did come down some. Enrollment, like I said, a little increase there. Our ADA is our principal apportionment too, is what we get paid on. We're keeping that projected at 94% right now. Mr. Riley's doing a great job keeping everybody here. Because as a reminder, we don't get paid for the number of students at the school in our enrollment. We get paid for the students who are actually in the classroom each day. And then our unduplicated count is what pays our supplemental and our concentration grant. And because we're over 55%, we meet the threshold to receive the concentration. When I do the salaries, it's on average 2% step and column. And when I did this budget also, I assume full, 100% full employment. So that means any open positions we assume are all full as of July. So it is full employment. Probably that may or may not happen. Hopefully it will be close to it. So there will be adjustments at first interim, prorated salaries, but this assumes complete, everybody is where they should be in their positions. And then CalPERS, and we'll get into that further when we go on. This is the current CalPERS rate for that we pay as an employer. So we are, I think, almost done with the CalPERS process. We know there had been a delay. We've been reaching out to the county, and the county reached out to the state CalPERS department, and they're in the final stages of approving our CalPERS. So hopefully, within the next month, we will be able to enroll and do all of that. So this is how it comes down from the state. Every school site, every charter school in the state gets the exact same amount base grant. You can see where it goes, and the COLA. So when we take all of that, we put it together into our local control funding formula, which I kind of reviewed before, and it's just a review, is again, we take our P2, our ADA, our unduplicated count percentage, our COLA, it goes through this crazy formula, and it comes out our entitlement. So what does that mean for us? So this is a piece of the local control funding formula, and you can see there's your 2.3%, there's your 75% unduplicated. You put it all together, and that is what we're projecting at this moment, $32.1 million of LCFF revenue. And I like to always show this graph. 68% of our money comes from LCFF revenue. And you can see how the rest of it goes around. I'll talk about STRS on behalf later because it's not a real number. And it's really our other state revenue. And you can see here our federal revenue is only 4%. So what's going on at the federal government, as you're aware, they're trying to dismantle the Department of Education and put all the federal funding in different departments. Title I, they said they are not going to get rid of Title I, so we still get Title I funding. But for us here at TPAA, we get about $760,000 maybe for Title I, and the rest of our categories are smaller. So depending on what happens, it will affect us, but not as dramatically as some big districts. And our other state revenue, our biggest piece over here in our state revenue is that AB 740 grant we talked about, that $3.2 million, and our special education apportionment. And as a reminder, so we do receive state funding and federal funding for special education, but state funding and federal funding usually equal on average, and here also, about 40% of our special education costs. So our unrestricted revenue, or LCF revenue, supports at least 60% of the special education expenses. So what does that mean when you see the numbers? LCF revenue, again, is based on all those assumptions, and you can see the increase, and the increase is because we're projecting increased student enrollment and because of the increase of COLAs up to 3%. There's this other item in here called STRS on behalf. What this is the district has put it on their books every year, but they've never put it in the budget. So there is an accounting standard that if you are a district, a charter school, whatever, and you pay STRS for your employees, you have to book the proportionate shares, what it's called, of what the state pays on behalf of your employees for STRS. So this is not a real number. The revenue is not going out, the expenses are not going out, but you have to put it on your books as revenue, and you have to put it as expense. And when I went through the books, I could see every year we're posting it. And like last year was $900-something thousand. So if you're looking at your budget and you're looking at unaudited actuals, you're gonna go, why have $1 million difference in revenue? And so I wanted to make sure going forward that we include it, and I will have a better number by first interim. But it goes under state revenue, but I pull it out so you don't disproportionately look at state revenue. Everything is pretty static. And when we get to the expenses, before I talk about that one, you can see here's the STRS on behalf here. And I did not highlight employee benefits, but you may not remember. When you saw estimated actuals, our employee benefits were about 7.6 million. And you can see going forward, this is, I think 7.5, this is 8.6. That's that PERS. Right now at fully staffing with PERS, it's about $1.56 million that we're budgeting for PERS. The other piece that's in there that people may not realize is if you are an employee and you're in STRS, you have STRS retirement that we pay, but they don't get Social Security, that's 6.2%. If you are a PERS employee, the employer pays not only that 27% or 27% next year for every dollar, but we also have to pay the 6.2% for the Social Security. So also the employee, on the employee side, which we don't obviously have enough, they also pay 8%. So books and supplies, what I wanted to highlight there is that we are looking at in 26-27 purchasing the textbook adoption for math. Right here, it's math, Mr.
Yes.
Johnson, for math. And we have restricted lottery and unrestricted lottery to pay for that. So that would not be coming out of LCFF. So at the end, we say deficit spending, not deficit spending. Right now, it looks good. So I have to clean up the books, so we'll have changes by first interim. And you see that reduction, and that's because you have that textbook adoption. So bond covenants, and this is really the meat and potatoes, right? Because we want to make sure we do this. We have 3 covenants that we must pass for our bond. And the first one is the most important, and this is the coverage ratio covenant. And basically what it's saying is this is your lease payment, and you need to have 1.2 times that in your net income, which is, right, your revenue minus all the money that comes in, all the money that goes out, that's your net income. And here you get to add back depreciation, because remember that's not a real number, that's a pretend number too, because cash doesn't. And so here at estimated actuals at this time, we are passing it at 1.33. And we have the cash on hand and the net asset covenant. And because we have a large cash reserve, we're able to pass that one. So then when we look at adoption budget, the same thing. So what I'm trying to do is, as we've had many discussions, is really trying to spend all the cash we receive in the year, we receive it on the students that earn that revenue, still meeting our covenant. So we're trying to get down to the 1.2 as much as possible. And when we look over here at the cash on hand, we do have these cash reserves. And remember, some of that is restricted money, but most of it is unrestricted. We also meet our 5 months of reserves, which is about 15 million, so we do have that funding. And the other piece is, because we have the ability to pay down use some of that money for fixed assets, things that cost over $5,000, we plan to utilize some of that money to do some stuff around the district. And it was, I had mentioned it also in the board narrative review of that. So that we do at this point pass all those covenants. Questions?
Yeah, Ms. Arzua, I have some questions. First of all, for retirement, right? We're putting so much money, we're feeding so much money into retirement that wasn't there before, right? As far as the stirs and PERS, right?
Yes.
How are we mitigating that in the future? Like, is that gonna hinder us in the future? Like, it's gonna be like a weight on the school? And
As of right now, looking out in the multi-years, it is not. And I think when we look historically back, we had enough reserves. So looking forward, as of right now, it is not a hindrance. We can absorb that amount. But I think when we talk about reserves and how you're saying, and how you think it's a board policy, 5 or 6 months that we have to have in reserves, we can also think about that also to make sure we keep that in reserves.
And we just gotta think about putting things in place to kind of mitigate some of that
Yes.
that cost, right? The other thing is when you talk about retirements, right? The STIRS and the STIRS of the teachers who don't pay for Social Security, correct?
Correct.
How's that affecting that the staff that doesn't make as much as the teachers, but how's
So
that
for
gonna
the
affect-
PERS, so right now they are paying the 6.2% for Social Security, but what will happen is when PERS comes in effect, I think it's 8% now, they would pay 8% of their salary, every paycheck will go to PERS. So then they're paying like 15.5% basically or whatever for retirement.
So they're gonna be paying more,
Yeah, so their checks, yes, so they'll be paying more.
so their checks they're gonna be less, but it's going toward retirement, right?
Yes, but it's going towards retirement.
Toward retirement, okay. Let me see, federal government, decrease, right? I think it was like 53% or something like that of revenue that went down.
Yes, from prior year to current
And
year.
that was COVID money, right?
Most of it was the ESSER 3 money, yes, because that was like over $3 million. So that's one-time money, so that will be
Were
gone.
we able to use all that money up?
We used the ESSER 3 money, all of that we used, we had until September 30th, 2024, they extended the deadline, and there was around 200 and something thousand dollars from some of the other COVID money that we did not use that we have to return.
We gotta, other thing is Ms. Escobar showed us these amazing classrooms, right?
Yes.
So do we have money to fund that?
Well, that's what I was saying about, we
I
have,
got you, Ms. Escobar, I got you.
is we can spend down some of our reserve. As long as we keep that 6 months, which I think is like 14, 15 million, and I'll have more concrete numbers when we get to unaudited actuals, that we have that reserve. But we do have that money that we can spend down and still be in compliance with the 245 days, or 45 days of cash. We're at 247 right now, projecting out with the budget. So we can use that funding, some of that money, to be able to do the classrooms. Because each classroom is going to be over the fixed asset threshold.
Is that would that be considered furniture, I guess, replacement?
Yes.
Wouldn't that be built in the budget?
It wouldn't be in the revenue and income and expense income statement. It would be on the balance sheet, and it would be like it would hit your fixed assets. So it reduces your cash, hits your fixed asset, and then ultimately reduces your your cash account is what it reduces your cash account.
Then, last question is, talked about cleaning up, right? I've been up since 2:30 in the morning, so I probably didn't hear correctly. Did I hear that we were caught up, but we still need to fix stuff, or?
The
Or
big,
as far as
the big account, on the balance sheet, is that what we're talking about? Yeah. So the big accounts, the ones that were really large, I've reconciled all of those. There are still all the payroll accounts that I have to reconcile. There'll probably be adjustments, so they won't be as big as what I've already done. And there are a couple, there's one receivable that's $326,000 that we may or may not be expecting to receive. From like 2018, 2019, so I've reached out to Palmdale School District to see if they have on their books that they still owe us the money. So there could be a few more adjustments. And my goal is to get all the adjustments done in this fiscal year before we hit the PERS and we hit all the other expenses, so we can get everything cleaned up.
Can you give us a status on that once it's all
Yes.
cleaned up that way?
Yep, yes. And I may have something, if the July meeting, I may have a status update by then before I know the actual.
Yeah, and, what do you call it, yeah, thank you, the budget looks, the school's financially sound, and thank you for your guys' hard work and your team, you guys are doing amazing, thank you.
I will have to thank my team because they are amazing. Okay. Thank you.
I want to say thank you for the presentation.
Yes.
That was very well done, as the last time. Thank you for the thoroughness and the clarity of it. It's very easy to follow.
Thank you.
In regards to the money that you said, the revenues from past years, they're not included right now in that final number, or are they?
In the number I presented right now, they're included in that number.
Okay, so once you verify them, if they're not confirmed as receivables, then that number's gonna go down by those amounts.
It'll increase our expenses, so it'll
And
decrease the bottom line, just decrease that revenue minus expense, yes.
Thank you.
So I just hope that when we do the tour, or when we go around the classes and stuff, next school year, we can see these awesome things in place in the classes and see them in real, you know?
I like the beanbag, I wanna
Right?
find that room, that's where I'm gonna go hang out.
Any questions, Dennis?
No, great job.
No, thank you, Mr. Roosevelt. So could I get a motion to approve the 2025-2026 fiscal school year budget?
I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of the 2025-2026 fiscal year budget.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes, thank you. This is, the motion in front of us is to recommend and approve the writable MH. It's a HMH. Dyslexic.
It's a little bit of a tongue twister for you there.
Yeah. Is
Hi,
that
good
2:30
evening.
wake-up call?
I'm Lisa Olwine, I'm the coordinator of Ed Services, I work under Gary Schatz. And what I'm bringing to you tonight is the request to add writable to our grades 3 through 6 on our campus. We already use it for our English language learners, and we've seen them improving in their skills in writing, and as we can tell, that we need some assistance, and so this is an intervention that we would like to put in place for our students in grades 3 through 6.
What does it actually offer the students?
So what it
What
actually,
can they do with it?
well, it's a tutorial, it helps them go through the writing process, and each step, it builds it up as they go. So first, they're gonna be focusing on how to write a topic sentence, or they're going through and adding more details, different pieces like that, that allows them to learn the steps so that they're having more consistent language in their writing so that they can succeed.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion?
Recommend to approve writables HMH.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Recommend to approve the academies as advocate report.
Me?
Yep.
Yes. So, as you know, we have the 2016 bond and the 2018 bond. And every 5 years, the federal tax law requires that we do a periodic, it's called arbitrage rebate calculation. So arbitrage basically is, are you making money off of this bond because it's a tax exempt bond? So they're really looking at all the interest you make. Are you making too much? And if you make too much, do you have to pay it back? And so Campanelli, who is our bond support, they will do the calculation. It's $3,500, and then they take care of doing the report and submitting it to all the correct people who need to see it. And they use a third party to assist them, who is a CPA firm that specializes in tax law for stuff like this, federal tax law.
So this is just for the consultant?
Yes.
Okay, make a motion to approve the Academy's arbitrage report.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, recommend to approve the replacement of the ES classroom projectors.
Absolutely. So a year's worth of our technology, tech ticket data, as well as working with our elementary school staff and administration, indicated a need for an elementary school projector replacement. Exacerbating this need is that the replacement bulbs for our current projectors over there are no longer in production, so makes those obsolete very quickly. What you have in front of you is a proposal to fit our elementary school campus with 27 new Epson projectors. We have experience with these projectors as they are currently at our secondary site. The maintenance of these are very low, as well as all the required parts, if repairs are needed, are in stock and will be in stock into the foreseeable multi-year future. This is a critical need for educational purposes. This new integration of technology allows a integration of both what's shown on the Promethean board can be duplicated on the projector, allowing kids throughout the entirety of the class to be able to see at every viewing angle, allows the teachers to work collaboratively with the students, as well as show different methodologies or different examples on 2 separate screens within the class. It's a basic technology within the classroom. The technology is needed to be replaced.
When I was at the PD, I heard that from several teachers, so yes, I'd like to.
Are we gonna have replacement bulbs or before they go, or are they gonna offer any warranties on them by chance, or?
We do have a 3-year warranty on these, and since we already are utilizing the same exact device across our campus, we have ample that we can pull from, and we will keep them in stock as well.
Is it for 27 classrooms?
Correct.
They're mobile?
No, these are hard fit like you see here. The Promethean boards are mobile.
I heard Ms. Escobar say it was gonna look really nice within your classroom, right?
I think I saw a demonstration of it in our little.
The projector.
Go look at it.
Right? All right, can I get a motion?
Motion to recommend the approval of the replacement of the ES classroom projectors.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Recommend to approve the California College Guide initiative.
Good evening. The Human Resources Department is requesting board approval for the adoption of the Declaration of Need for the Palmdale Aerospace Academy. The CTC requires a declaration of need to be on file for every year so we could apply for emergency credentials.
Any questions? All those in favor, can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to recommend the approval of the California College Guidance Initiative.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7 is to recommend and approve the Catapult EMS.
So, you previously, and I'm speaking on behalf of Mrs. Levy tonight, we had previously accepted, you had previously adopted Centegix, which is now our ability to go in and out. It's also our emergency system. This is the Catapult is the replacement of Raptor, and yeah, I'm sure you guys are wondering why we skipped to 8 instead of doing 6, but because there should have been one in front of there. The California guidance thing was me.
Yeah, that's why I'm confused,
Yeah,
because the one that was done right now is not this one.
Yes, we did 8 before 6.
Yeah, and I think the one Dennis asked to be
Did we?
approved
Skip
was
one?
this. So,
All right, so let's go back, right? Recommend to approve the California College Guide Initiative.
So, it is necessary, anytime we share data, we are required to have board approval. In this instance, we are required to actually share data through this particular, with the CTC and with the CD through our California College Guidance Initiative. What it does is allow students to be able to see their track through high school, lets them know whether they're on track to graduate. It is a requirement. It is supposed to be fully implemented by January 1st, 2026. We are kind of getting a little bit of a jump on it, but as long as we get the approval, we can start sharing information immediately with them. And we don't really have a choice because we're required to do it.
Okay.
Can I get a motion?
We're doing number 6 again?
Yeah, number 6.
Okay. Recommendation to approve, make a motion to approve the California College Guidance Initiative.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
So do we have to do the
So,
one?
so we're doing number 7, right?
The Catapult.
Yeah, recommend to approve, the motion before us is to recommend to approve the Catapult units.
So Catapult just works hand in hand with Strategics, which we have, you guys have previously approved. Catapult is a replacement for Raptor. So all of the things that Raptor currently does, Catapult will take the place of that. It's a more affordable and has a little more feature to it than Raptor currently does.
Do you have any questions?
No.
Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the Catapult EMS.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And we already approved the adoption.
Well, we have to redo this because we didn't do this.
We'll do it.
All right, the motion before us is to recommend to approve and adopt the declaration of need for the 2025-26 school year.
Make a motion to approve the adoption of declaration of needs for 2025-26.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
I liked it earlier, I still like it.
There you go, thank you guys. All right, public announcements regarding closed sessions? No? Public comments for the items on the closed session agenda? No? Okay, we adjourn at 7:17 for closed session. correct?
Yeah.
Reconvene from closed session, at, eight.
On. Are we on?
Yeah, we're on.
Yeah, well,
I can't. It's so late that we're like, 8:36, there you go. All right, the following actions were taken during closed session. Recommend by Mr. Trujillo, second by Mr. Lujan, to expel student 2425-04 and 24/25-05. The vote was as follows: Mr. Trujillo, aye; Mr. Lujan, aye; and Ms. Lopez, aye. Recommend by Mr. Lujan and second by Mr. Trujillo to expel student 24/25-06 and recommend, the vote was as follows: Mr. Trujillo, aye; Ms. Lopez, aye; Mr. Lujan, aye. Recommendation by Mr. Lujan and second by Mr. Trujillo to expel student 24/25-07. Mr. Trujillo, aye; Ms. Lopez, aye; Mr. Lujan, aye. Recommendation by Mr. Lujan, second by Mr. Trujillo to expel student 24/25-08. The vote was as follows: Mr. Trujillo, aye; Ms. Lopez, aye; Mr. Lujan, aye. Recommendation by Mr. Trujillo, second by Mr. Lujan to expel student 24/25-09. The vote was as follows: Mr. Trujillo, aye; Ms. Lopez, aye; Mr. Lujan, aye. Okay. Reports. Mr. Knowles is here. Mr. Trujillo, anything to report?
Nothing tonight.
Nothing. Ms. Lopez, anything to report?
No.
No? I have nothing to report. That's it, nothing.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Closing, this meeting adjourns at 8:40.